average, 90% of sales reps stop after just 3 attempts. 90%. And yet it takes, on average, 8 to 12 touches to close a deal. So with that 3.8 billion, they want that attention. So how can you give them the attention so that you create top of mind awareness, which is the number one goal in marketing? The minute that they think of a product like yours, you are the first person that they decide, I want to talk to them.
Hey, Amanda, welcome to the show.
So happy to be here, Steve.
I always love your energy. Whenever I bump into you, do you ever have a bad day, or are you just eternally happy?
No, I have bad days.
Okay, all right. So you're normal like us. I've got to bring it out straight off the bat. Okay, if anyone doesn't know who Amanda Holmes is, you're kind of living under a rock. But okay, we often believe more people know us than actually do. But quite simply, the ultimate sales machine, Chet Holmes. How could you not know that legend? Now, maybe not the best way to start a podcast, but I know a lot of sons and daughters of very famous, powerful, influential people that have won the Gene Pool lottery, that have kind of ridden on the coattails. You didn't do that. You've really owned your space, and you are a powerhouse on your own, still focusing on this system, which, let's be honest, goes back a bit. But you've been able to show that this is a fundamental pinnacle of work that can help businesses. Now, you've gone into that position. What was it, about the age of 24, you had to grab the reins? That's very young to have to grab the reins of, unfortunately, your father passing, and then going, well, okay, there's this legend here. At 24 years old, were you considering, maybe I shouldn't try to do that because that was his thing? Or did you have a burning passion in you, hey, I need to take that forward? Tell me how your mind was then.
Well, I'm so glad that I'm here, and it means so much to hear all of that from you because I respect you so highly, Steve. So thank you so much for everything you just said. You just made my day. But and I love how you're always so frank, so I will be frank. I watched my father die at 55, and I looked at that and went, if I step into that business, you might as well just put me in a grave right. I just
You'll be fine.
Right next to him. Okay. To go into a grave right next to him. So I really wanted nothing to do with it. That's why the first 2.5 years I was looking for different C-suites to fill that void. Everybody's looking at me like, why is she here? And I'm looking at them going, I don't want to be here. So it was and what was very odd about it as well is that my father spent 382 nights in the hospital and never a night alone between me, my mom, and my brother. And so I spent easily 100 all-nighters with him, and never once did he say, Amanda, here are my companies. Here's who runs my companies. Here's what I'd like to see from my companies. We never had that dialogue. So you can imagine when people would ask me what my father did, I said, he has companies and he speaks and he's got a book or something. So from that, singer, songwriter was what I was trained in. I lived in LA. I released my 4th record, and then he got ill. So it was quite a huge shift, and I really felt that my life would be on the line if I stepped in. That's where I started.
So what made you do it? Because you, as you say, quite simply, you're from a creative background of making music, triggering emotions, reactions, and now you've got a triggered reaction in your father passing away. What did make you go, well, hang on a minute, I'm looking outward when I should be looking inward? When was that turning point?
So I study under an Indian saint. I would like to say that's why I have positive energy, is she's assisted me a lot in the journey. After I watched my father die, and there was this moment where he said, for all the wealth I've amassed, nothing can buy my way out of this hospital room. Yeah. And that stuck with me forever, right? And he had sitting there the yachts and the mansions and the rolls and all of that. And when I sold all of it, I went, I'm a minimalist. I actually don't own many things, and I'm much more in the pursuit of impact and assisting others to make the impact that they make. So I met this guru who said, yes, you can actually step into the business. And I looked at her like, you've got to be smoking something. There's no way that I would ever. And she just kept repeating it for years. Amanda, you need to step in. You can do this. Your father built something really beautiful, and it is a legacy that can carry on and have a new wave, but you have to do it in your way, and you can do it differently. So it took 2 years to get up the cojones, and then I climbed Kilimanjaro kind of on a whim, the largest freestanding mountain in the world. And after doing that, it kind of gave me the belief that, okay, well, every great thing accomplished is just one step at a time.
Hey, I'm sorry for interrupting this podcast. I know it's a brilliant one, but I wanted to talk to you about your room, your connections. Now, we know full well that great things come from great connections and great rooms. Now, if you're in a room full of people that will challenge you, inspire you, motivate you, and support you, then great. But if not, then maybe I have the solution for you. Head on over to stevesims.com, look up Sims Distillery there, and join our community of creative disruptors, those that are only not there to help you and motivate and actually give you information, but to support and answer questions. We very much vet the room to make sure that we support each other's growth. We all want each other to grow. So if you want to be in the right room, head on over to stevesims.com/Sims Distillery, and I'll see you inside my room. Enjoy the rest of the show. So how old, let me ask you the question you should never ask a lady, and you can lie. Of course, how old are you now?
So I've been CEO for the last 8 years. I'm 35.
All right. Okay. So a lot has changed in the world, and most of it is in social. Okay. So,
Yes.
Your father, myself, and I'm not putting myself in this sandpit in any way, shape, or form, but the Tony Robbins, the Jay Abrahams, all of those iconic names lived in a world prior to social media. And then comes along this 25-year-old attractive singer-songwriter who's grabbing the reins of an iconic system and business legend. And you did it right in the middle of social media.
Holy cow.
How much, and I've always said poor people are very noisy. That'll probably get me cancelled. But how much shit did you get for no reason just because of your age? Or did you get none?
That's funny that you say that, because so when I first stepped into the company, I just started asking questions because I wanted to understand what was going on. And the more questions I asked, the more the people around me said, keep asking questions. You're asking the right questions. They recognized that I was actually understanding what was happening the more that I asked. And it was many of my staff around me that said, you need to step into this as well. I was the last one in the room. Like my business coach calls me the reluctant CEO. So I did get some resistance, but a lot more support than I got resistance within my own business. And it wasn't until I got a soft viral article written about me in Inc. where it said, finally, it was during a time when millennials we had just given up on my age demographic, that we were just going to live in our parents' basements for the rest of our lives and we wouldn't amount to anything and nobody knew what to do with us. So then they wrote a story about me, how saying like one millennial actually took responsibility. Look at this one millennial, and it went soft viral. It was shared more times than Elon Musk and Richard Branson that week. So that was the only time I really got a lot of flack in that article. So many people were like, oh, rich daddy's girl got this. And I'm thinking, you have no idea the hell I've been through to make this happen. I mean, so when I finally said yes to stepping in as CEO, that first week, I got papers for a lawsuit with one of our partners. I was like, oh, okay, that's heavy, but I can get through it. Then the next day, my CFO comes to me and says, we've spent $500,000 on Salesforce. We don't know if we should stay in our current CRM or if we should go to that one. What do you think we should do, Amanda? And I went, what's a CRM? And then the day following that, one of my staff didn't believe in me, so they went to my merchant servicer and said, we don't believe that she has the wherewithal to carry on this business, so they froze our funds. So then one of my staff comes to me and goes, Amanda, we can't pay your hundreds of staff right now because the merchant servicer has frozen your funds. And I went, what's a merchant servicer? I mean, like, every day was like, how is this all happening in 1 week? This is absurd. And then it just continued to be difficult for several years before I really got my stride. But we did make some good wins. Like in the first year, I increased our leads by 1,176%, and I doubled our coaching clients multiple years in a row. Yeah.
And I love the thing about you I've always loved is a lot of people get to a position and then they start looking at everything beneath them. And I've always been very much of a guerrilla marketing, like keep it basic, keep it simple. I remember seeing you at a party in traffic and conversion and you're walking around dressed as a book. And it was fantastic. But we were in a party full of, quite simply, some of the icons of marketing in the planet, and you're dressed as your product, your service, your book. And I just loved that. Nobody could not notice you. And also the amount of people that were taking photographs of you, you owned that.
Yes.
Do you find that a lot of people, when they start getting to a certain position, they start putting themselves into an ivory tower and start missing out on the communication and conversations they need to be having?
Well, that's a huge part of what my company comes and does. Very much at the top, they don't know what's going on in the trenches. And we actually assist in that process to get everyone on the same page. So yes, I see it all the time in every industry you could imagine, especially as companies grow from 8 to 9 figures and from 9 to 10 figures. But that in particular, so it was a human billboard and it glowed.
Yes,
for those
it
that
did.
Don't know. And it was 4 feet tall and you wore it like a backpack. And I had several people come up to me and go, Amanda, no, you should have hired somebody to wear that. And I'm like, why would I ever hire anybody to? It would take the pure joy that I have walking around, and with every person that goes, oh, I know that book, I'd go, hi, I'm Amanda Holmes. I'm Chet's daughter. I've written the new edition. And the glow on their face of a new edition was like Christmas morning over and over and over again. I'm like, why would I steal that joy from myself to give it to somebody else? Heck no.
No, that makes sense. Now, you say the new edition. I know you've modernized it, but you've modernized proven tactics that, regardless of what's going on in time, works. How old was it when when did the first book come out? When did your dad's book first come out?
2007. So the strategies are still the same, right? I took radio ads that my father was doing content marketing from radio ads before anybody knew about how to lead with an education. He called it education-based marketing before content marketing was even a thought in people's minds. So he'd give something away for free. The 4 things you didn't know about to double your sales in the next 12 months. Call in to get this free report, right? While everyone else is pitching, he's educating. So he built this whole system around that. So I took that same system and the same freaking message, and I just repurposed it on Facebook ads, and it decreased my ad spend by 30% using his same messaging. It was just the tactics that changed. So what he was teaching on advertising in magazines, I now use on Instagram DMs and Reels, right? What he talked about in cold calling, I now do in a LinkedIn cold message. So it's all the same human behavior. It's just understanding which steps can you make fewer steps that make quantum leaps, like what you teach.
I love the fact that the strategies and the structures are the same, that just maybe in a different sandpit. So I love the fact that you've been able to engage in that and bring it forward, and it's still working. Where do you see this going?
Everything I do is about simplifying because our world is so inundated. I'll give you an example. So 15 years ago, the average company would have to be seen 7 times by a prospect for them to remember you. Today, it's 500 times. I mean, for any small to medium-sized business, that's nauseating, right? It used to be 7 different marketing mediums it would take to get in front of your prospects. Today, it's on average 13 marketing mediums with 5 social media channels and 3 paid advertising sites. You're doing double the amount of work to get a fraction of the results. So we're just living in this shiny object syndrome world. So with everything that I do, so my father had 12 core competencies for doubling sales. Every chapter of his book is another core competency, and very often it's just one that you would need to be able to double your sales. I've taken those 12 and I've narrowed it down to 5. Why? Because everything is about just simplifying, making it easier so that you know that every step you're taking, it's taking you to the resulted goal that you're trying to achieve.
So why don't we excite people? Would you care to give us one of those chapters and the basics in it?
Okay.
Let's not give them all because, hey, we want them to buy the book, but tease us, excite us, arouse us.
I'm trying to think of what's a really good one. Let me give this strategy. It's actually chapter 11, which I normally don't give on podcasts like this, but it's a fun one and everybody loves it. So on average, 90% of sales reps stop after just 3 attempts. 90%. And yet it takes on average 8 to 12 touches to close a deal. So what can we do to actually be engaged, to follow up, that's entertaining and makes them excited to hear from you? So I invented this thing called the signature selfie with a friend of mine called Luis Garcia. So if you meet, let's say that we met at an event, and I bet I did this to you. So Steve, it's so nice to meet you at this event, because 80% of leads that you make at events never get followed up on. So we meet and I say, let's do something fun. So I pull out my phone and I pull it up and I take a selfie of us, like smile. So we both smile. I take the picture and then I say, okay, what's your number? I'll text it to you. And then I just pause. And I assume that you are going to give me your cell phone. And I will tell you that I have gotten the cell phone numbers of leaders in industries. I did it for a billionaire in India in December in front of his whole company. There were like 600 people in the audience. And he went, oh, that was a clever way to get my cell phone. I'm like, and then, so now you have their cell phone number. And when you text that picture and you're both smiling because you told them to smile and they're like, oh, we're smiling. When you follow up, I'll follow up 4 years later and they'll be like, who is this? And I'll resend that picture and they'll go, we did take a picture. And then I'm in and I'm starting a conversation, right? So it's a great way to continue to follow up. But then the next step is you have to ask, where do you spend your time online? And they may say, are you more on LinkedIn? Are you more on Instagram? Are you more on Twitter? Because everybody spends more of their time on one place. So then you find out which place that is. You both follow each other right then and there. You take action right then and there. And then, so my father he would get a newspaper and he would cut out a newspaper clipping. He would put it into an envelope. He would mail it to his prospect and say, hey, did you see this? I thought that this was funny and I thought of you. That much effort can be done with the flick of a finger today, right? And everybody is trying to grab the attention of anybody. 3.8 billion people are now putting out content on a regular basis, whereas 15 years ago, right, we were only competing with the people that could spend the money to get that attention. So with that 3.8 billion, they want that attention. So how can you give them the attention so that you create top of mind awareness, which is the number one goal in marketing? The minute that they think of a product like yours, you are the first person that they decide, I want to talk to them. So when you're creating that top of mind awareness, I did this with Dave Woodward. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Did you remember Dave?
I did.
Okay. Wonderful man. Wonderful man. I fell in love with him and his family. So I followed up with him. He ran ClickFunnels as CEO. So 9-figure business, 100 staff. So I wouldn't have been able to text him every day, but he was posting on Instagram every day. So every day I commented. He posted about his children and he had done a bet that they couldn't go without sugar for 48 hours and they broke within like 4 hours. They couldn't even handle it. And I said, oh, that's so funny. You should have charged him more than $10. Then he posted about his wife and how she sees these Christmas lights and she looked so happy. And I went, you should give your wife Christmas lights 3 or 4 times a year for how happy she was with those Christmas lights. Then he posts about his boots. He just bought boots to go climb a mountain. I went, you know, Dave, I climbed Kilimanjaro in new boots and it ripped my feet to shreds. Make sure that you wear in your shoes before you go on a large hike. So what am I doing? I'm showing him that I'm listening. I'm showing him that I care. I'm showing him that I'm paying attention. So 3 months every single day. I posted on every single thing that he commented on, or I commented on every single thing that he posted. And I didn't even have to reach out to him. He reached out to me and said, you know, Amanda, we'd really like to buy 650 Ultimate Sales Machine books and send them out to our 2 Comma Club best clients. Would that be okay with you? Oh, I don't know, Dave, I guess. Right?
You see, the thing I love about this is you've given us nothing that costs anything. You know, so
oh, those are my favorite.
Yeah, everything you've said, like, you say about the selfie, you got me on that. So I remember you doing that to me, and I know exactly the picture. And funny enough, I end up saving that picture as the identity picture in your phone, so that when you text me, I can see that me and you were together at that event.
Exactly.
So yes, I know that it worked, but it didn't cost anything. And I don't give out my cell phone very often, but you did get my cell phone. So you just given us 2 things, and a variety of things actually, that don't cost any money, but do cost time and do cost planning and do take continuity, and you've got a continuation. Because you're right, we give up too early. And just by commenting on, and I do this a lot, commenting on people's social starts the conversation. Why do you think people give up so early?
Well, we call it pig-headed discipline and determination. So for me, it became a game. I knew that I would tell the story later on because it was just too hysterical. And for me to keep the engagement, I had to entertain myself. If I was entertaining myself, then I knew I would entertain him. And so it became fun. I mean, my father did the same thing. He would be in cold calling centers, and when he would make cold calls, you'd have to do so many hundreds of cold calls a day, and he would call in different accents. For 1 hour, he'd call in a Scottish accent, which I will have to say was terrible, by the way. I don't know if he ever got called out, but I do know that he did accents. But if you make it entertaining, then it's a joy for you and them, right? And you don't have to be, okay, how am I pitching them? How am I forcing them? How am I pushing them? I will tell you right now, 97% of your prospects feel that salespeople are too pushy today. So the more that you can be entertaining, the more that you can be yourself, the more that you can tailor to what their needs and likes are, the better off you'll be. And we say it as well. I believe in strategies that take horsepower, not wallet power. It was the same thing when I first took over the business. I generated 30,000 leads without costing me a dime, and that was around Dream 100, which is another. I thought about telling that one because that's very similar to your methodology.
I love that. I really do. So look, let's not wait till the end. Where can people get the book? If you've excited and aroused them, like I'm sure you have, where can they find you?
You can go to ultimatesalesmachine.com. That has a lot more gifts than Amazon. ultimatesalesmachine.com.
All right. So I loved it. I think you said, and I want to make sure it's right. Did you say horsepower rather than wallet power? That I like. With most people today, they try to buy away their pain. You know, hey, if you do this, this will work. But you could buy this over here and pay someone else to do it, and they'll immediately go, "Oh, I'll pay for it." We don't do it ourselves. You've not given us anything that's not primitively, impactfully productive, but people avoid it. Now we're getting too much stuff coming at us. We are not getting any quieter. In fact, if anything, the world is getting noisier. You say that people don't like pushy salesmen. Not only are salesmen getting pushier, but we don't tolerate it anymore. So our level of toleration to your slick funnels, because I remember years back when you were in a department store or you were, at a car showroom, you kind of used to enjoy the flow. And they used to say there's nothing more easier to sell than to a salesperson, because we used to be, oh, I like that. Oh, I know I'm getting channeled, but now we resent it. We look at being sold to as a insult. You're not going to sell me. And so we're finding a conversation, but everything you talked about is initiating a conversation.
You know why that is though? It's Death Star Amazon. I call it Death Star Amazon. I had Amazon in one of my keynotes at HubSpot. I spoke and I call Amazon the Death Star to the traditional sales rep. Because now you can just go online and purchase, right? People are buying cars and homes online without talking to a salesperson. So that is the reason why we now have this short attention span for salespeople. But the thing that we have to realize is, so the average prospect will look at 5 pieces of content before they raise their hand to talk to a sales rep today. That's in the B2B space. So what can we do to preempt our competition to give them the information they need online so they can make that educated decision that it leads to you as the only logical conclusion? I could go for quite some time on content and how you should do that, but I will pause.
So we know where to get the book. Where can people follow you and your enthusiasm? Where would you prefer they go?
Oh. I spend more of my time on Instagram. I can be anywhere, but Amanda Holmes was taken by some woman that won't use her Instagram. Gosh, I wish she would give it to me, but I have to use Amandita Holmes instead, which is my salsa name. So Amandita Holmes.
Amanda, you know, your energy is always intoxicating, and I always love it. I know, Amanda, I'm giving her the big thumbs up, so I hope people go over. Again, Ultimate Sales Machine is the .com. That's the best place?
Yep.
All right, ultimatesalesmachine.com. Get over there because there's some freebies on there that are going to help you. You can get it at Amazon, you know that. So if you want to be lazy and use your points, go over there. But I know there's some pretty little stuff waiting on this one. Amanda, thank you very much for spending time with us today.
Always a pleasure, Steve.
Oh, I love you. Look after yourself, and I'm sure we'll bump into a party in another selfie soon. See you later. Well, that was another episode of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast with me, your host, Steve Sims. If you like it, you know the scoop. Subscribe, tell your friends, share it around. Let them get benefit from this juice. And of course, if you want to change the room you're in, join Sims Distillery. Jump over to stevedsims.com/Sims Distillery, or you can find a link directly from that website. That's the room where creative disruptors get together to actually help each other become better. If you've got standards or you want higher standards, join the right room. See you next time.